Good evening. How's everybody doing? Thank you for coming out tonight. We are going to get started. So understand we do not have a youngster, so I will call the meeting to order. And we will move on to our declaration of quorum. So if we call the roll.
Matthews.
Here.
Ingalls. Here. Flynn.
Here.
Bolt.
Here.
Rutherford.
Here.
Seahorn. Richter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And Travis, you're going to do the invocation for us. So we'll stand for that.
Father God, thank you for today, God, just for another amazing day to be living and loving and working in the great city of Shawnee. God, thank you for all the many blessings that we have in our families. God, just thank you for the upcoming holidays that we're getting an opportunity to share with time with loved ones. God, thank you for the amazing men and women who work so hard to create this, all the things that we need for our city. God, I pray that you're with the decisions that we make and that they be all in your will. So your son's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 1 is citizen participation. Same rules as always. 3-minute limit per person, 12 minute per topic. Our city attorney will keep time for us. You may hear responses in commissioner comments. And anyway, so stick around to the end. Should be a good meeting tonight. All righty, first up, we have Leslie Gilbert. All righty, thank you, ma'am. Rob is up next. So, Rob, it's all yours. How are you tonight? Doing great.
Tonight I have a couple things. Number one is the dropping off of people in Shawnee. There was a post that said DOC was doing it, but if you read the representative's reply to that, he actually fixed the issue of people giving bad addresses and when they were released. So that one small part was fixed. The rest of it wasn't. There's been tons of chatter over the years about people being dropped in Shawnee. Other cities are doing it. DOC did it or let it happen. Nonprofits are doing it and nursing homes are doing it. I have zero doubt it stops there, but I'd say that's plenty of examples to start a conversation with. Why is Shawnee the city where people are dropped off? Could it be because you yourself, Mr. Mayor, said this doesn't happen in Shawnee, and that leaves Shawnee wide open to people dumping? No penalties since it doesn't happen either, right? So some examples. Coming from a cop friend of mine, who actually isn't a cop in Shawnee, by the way, the Oklahoma City Homeless Alliance has been bringing people to Shawnee. Norman, Stillwater, Prague, that was confirmed today, and Seminole, the cities are bringing people to Shawnee and leaving them here. Hospitals are leaving people here when their insurance runs out. Now, as I said before, the representative addressed that he only fixed part of the issue. He never said he fixed the whole issue, so that leaves a lot. Now, since we've been told that this doesn't happen in Shawnee, I'm going to give you a nice story. Accel, A-C-C-E-L, at Crystal Park, which is a nursing home in Oklahoma City. They came and dropped off an elderly man here in a diaper with no shoes, no medication, didn't tell his daughter where he was going. Guess where they left him? They didn't take him somewhere warm. They left him on the curb of the Salvation Army. The only reason they figured it out is because all of a sudden somebody popped up with very little clothing on in their camera. Otherwise, that old man probably could have died out there. So yes, people are being dropped off here. So Mr. Mayor, you owe all of Shawnee an apology for continually telling everyone that this doesn't happen in Shawnee. It has and still does now. No more hiding behind lies, sir. Next, we have the disclosures, for the financial disclosures. Only 4 have been turned in, so where's the other 3? You do have to do it by law. Of the 3 that were turned in, of the 4 that were turned in, it appears one's correct. However, do your spouses, dependents, etc. make over $20K per year? Then you have to put down where they work. You don't have to put how much they make, but you do have to put where they work. That's not on anything. Let's see. Does your LLC own 15 properties? Got to put that down too. Speaking of conflicts, we had a commissioner who made the motion and then voted on the Dewey Street water emergency, which is directly in front of said commissioner's apartment complex that is money generating. If we had the commission's disclosures per the law, we'd have known you weren't supposed to vote on that and why. Voting yes directly benefited the property you make money off of. Why you voted is irrelevant. Excuse me. Next thing, we have the sales tax. I have a couple issues with that. Why can't we split the water bill? Let's say 75-25, just an example, for commercial versus residential water accounts. So the $24 total increase, commercial accounts would pay an extra $18, residential would pay $6. Social Security and lower income folks don't get hit as hard, and commercial accounts can weather $16 a month. Why not stop the vote in January? Why not let the first $5 kick in, and that gives us an entire year to plan the sales tax better. And then when we have the vote in 24 for the new sales tax, $5 falls off the water bill. Problem solved. My personal opinion is that I won't vote for a sales tax increase without an end date and a defined list of capital improvements for infrastructure only. No pet projects of any kind or form. My speaking will end one of two ways tonight. This is the city code. This is my copy that's got stuff spilled on it, but you can pick them up at the table back there. It says you're supposed to address us before the next speaker comes up here. So tonight, either you guys get to address me, or I'm going to wait till somebody taps me on the shoulder and tells me it's time to sit down, to which I will. So with that, what you got? I got all night. Okay, cool. While I'm waiting, I'm going to play a game on my phone since y'all don't want to take this serious either.
Mr. Mayor, if I may enter a point of order.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
If I remember our codes correctly, they say the city commission may address. It does not say shall address, and
So
there
I
is a
understand.
huge difference between those two.
Yes, ma'am. That's how I understood that.
Doesn't say you will after either, so you don't get to talk to people during commissioner's comments.
Next up is Mr. Rick Young. How are you doing tonight, Rick?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's always a privilege to come before council, even though minutes have been cut. I do appreciate the gentleman that came before me. He brings some things that are challenging, makes you think, and also gets you to dig into some of the things that we're dealing with. First off, I want to do this. I want to apologize to everybody up on this dais this evening, because you guys are having to deal with stuff that's been kicked down the road for decades and decades, years and years, and then the ball falls in your court. And that's not really fair. And then at the same time, hoping that the buck doesn't stop with you, that you run your time out. And I'm going to pull on my basketball prowess. When somebody has the ball and they're trying to run the clock out, there's things that you need to do, you have to do if you want to win. And I think we're all here for being winners. And so at the same time, I'm not going to go through that dissertation how to do that, but at the same time, we don't have time to run the clock out for the next group of people to be up here and just keep kicking the can down the road. We're in a situation where Shawnee America is getting ready to explode. Some people don't believe that, but if you talk to the right people, they will tell you. I'll give you one example. Red Moses in Fire Lake City, Mathis Brothers north of town. Oh, in Shawnee North. I get asked this question all the time. What is your agenda? Why do you keep showing up? Why do you keep talking to the people on the dais? Why are you so concerned? Why don't you just fade to the woodwork? I'm vested. I got 60 years of my 64 in this place, and I'm back here for a reason. And so I will continue to come to this dais for 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute to share what I believe that I know that we need to do here in Shawnee America. I am a bridge builder. I am also a breach repairer. January 10th, 2023, we're involved in the education process right now. We need to educate, vet, then we'll vote. Then here's one of the things that this young man that spoke before I spoke, and me also and other people, because we don't have enough concerned citizens to hold the people, whether you volunteer or paid, accountable for the actions while you're on the clock. Now, at the same time, somebody might have slipped off, they might have bounced off, they might have got drug away, they might have got expelled or whatever. But we do have a responsibility in our representative government, and that brings us to the representative government. Every one of you guys are voted in. Voted in, and it should be the people in your ward. In your ward voting, representative government. We've talked about, I have 4 commits, and those people that have told me that, yes, I'm gonna be a part and I wanna do that, I'm gonna hold you accountable. Then I'll bring friends to help me hold you accountable what you said you wanted to do, so we don't have to keep kicking this can down the road. We do need to flush out real solutions for challenges that face Shawnee America. I appreciate the data and information that was brought with receipts and photos and real information. And then once we find that out, we are held accountable for what we have heard. We just can't sweep it under the rug. I do believe this. We are one city. We should have one philosophy, and that's one for all. Shawnee America. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is John Bob Simple. How are you, John?
Doing well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for giving me a chance to share with you tonight. My name is John Bob Simple. I'm with POGO, or Potawatomi Go, formerly Blue Zones Project. As a certified Blue Zones community, we get to continue our work of making healthy choices easier by advocating that we as a community keep making improvements to our built environment. Thanks to the City of Shawnee and the generous support of the Avitas Foundation, our community is building more sidewalks and improving city parks. We know that the city is ever committed to improving active transportation safety for all of us, including seniors, our kiddos, and people with different abilities. I would say, Rick, that is real winning for sure. As such, the Built Environment Committee is pleased to share that national walkability expert Mark Fenton is coming to our community on December the 6th for a walkability summit. Mark is a national public health and planning and transportation expert, and he's the former host of America's Walking, a series on PBS. The summit includes a walking audit facilitator training from 8:30 to 3 o'clock, hosted at Higher Ground Church, formerly Calvary Baptist Church, at 214 West Farrell Street. Breakfast and lunch are included, and we would love to have you there. It'll be followed by a built environment advocacy presentation and reception at Gordon Cooper Technology Center, their seminar center there on campus, from 4 to 5:30 p.m. This is an open invitation to our community, to our leaders, to help us ensure that our community is as walkable and as safe as we can possibly make it, so that we can continue to improve health. For more information, you can check us out on Facebook at POGO, a Blue Zones certified community, or hit up your friends that you've known for a long time that were previously on the Blue Zones Project team. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. All righty, next up is Teresa Cody.
I'd like to give my time to Dale Kurz.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And we have Teresa Burnett.
I'll also yield my time to Representative Kurz.
All righty. Next up is Representative Del Curbs. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. And so I needed more time because, elected officials, we like to talk a lot longer. So, hey, I appreciate everybody this evening. Rob kind of addressed it a little bit about the DOC. And so I want you to hear it straight from my mouth and exactly what's been taken, and I'll speak on state's behalf. First and foremost, a year and a half ago, we did have a Department of Corrections, DOC vehicle, drop a recently released inmate out on their own accord with a address that was not a verified address. They had no ties to Shawnee, no communication, no support system set up. After calling and verifying that, a video was provided to my office, because we don't just run off on a whim to try to take somebody's word for it. We want to do our due diligence. So we corrected that problem. As of currently, a person that is released from prison or any incarceration under the DOC or the DOJ, which would include Kojak, would have to have if they're on a parole system, they have to have a predetermined parole officer, location of housing, and have a support system to support them in there on those that have to continue with a parole. Those that do not, that have served their time to society, they do get a bus ticket and $50 to go wherever they choose. They are a free individual, so they are then allowed to do that. The difference between the DOJ is all of those children are under the age. Most of the time, their parents or a support system is picking them up for continuing along that way. In the case that an 18-year-old is being released from the DOJ, they are still considered a juvenile in the system and are under that custody to make sure that they get on the correct path. So as far as the state is concerned, the one incident that was videoed and corrected that we can verify, my office can verify, has been corrected, and we have not had any other issues to this point that have been reported to my office. So I want to make that very clear. I understand there was some confusion and a misunderstanding on some social media that was corrected in its posting. With that, I just want to make sure that all of our citizens understand if there is anything happening along this way, that we see a state vehicle pick up the phone, call my office, email my office, we will investigate it, and we will have an answer. And that goes for all 7 of you. Sorry, Mark isn't here, but all 6 of you. You're citizens of this community. You are all my constituents. So I take your phone call the same as I take anybody else that's sitting behind us. Any Shawnee folk, Bethel area, Dale, all of my constituency. And we will investigate it. But we are not going to go off on a whim. We're going to make sure we have this case. Now, there was a case brought up on a potential nursing home issue. My understanding is we have some video of that. My office would like to have that because the nursing home is out of this community, which would then would come to my state office, and we do have some control over nursing homes. If there is anything like that we have questions about, please go to the city council if it's something there, or come to my office, email, call my office, and make sure that we have the proof or the information that we can facilitate and get this problem corrected. We'll do it. We've proved we've done it before. We'll do it again. I commend you guys on everything that you're faced with coming up. The deferred maintenance in this community is astounding. The $9.9 million we received from the ARPA funds is only a drop in the bucket, but it is definitely a drop in the bucket that is successful to us to continue to move forward. I think my personal opinion, and I'll go with that one, is the more transparency we can get in all of our offices, the better off we are. We're going to make great strides on that coming through, making sure. But again, I want to leave all of you and all of the citizens, if you see something and you can facilitate or validate it, send it to my office. If you're uncertain whether it should go to the city or to my office, send it to my office. My team will send it out to where it needs to go, and you will get an answer. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. And that's our final speaker. So we will move on to item 2, which is consider approval of the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to pull off the consent agenda? If not, we would entertain a motion.
Move to approve item 2.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Daniel and Darren. All right, motion to approve and a second. For item 2, we'll call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 3, presentation by Animal Control to present Pet of the Week. And I believe we have a pet this week. See a tail wagging.
Good evening. So this is MJ. She's between 3 and 5. She's a boxer mix. She gets along with all the dogs we've introduced her to. And that's what she does.
Yeah.
She does have an energy side. She loves to play ball. But that's what she does. She's a couch potato. Her adoption fee is only $5 and she's ready to go.
Really?
She's really nice.
Yeah, she'd be a nice dog for someone.
Hey, sit. We have lots available for adoption still. So.
All right. Thank you so
There you
much.
go.
She's so little.
That's all I have.
All righty, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That's probably about the friendliest one we've ever had. Item 4 is consideration of resolution declaring certain items of personal property surplus and no longer needed for city purposes, describing said items, and authorizing the sale of said items by auction, and in the event items do not sell at auction, disposal at city's discretion. Mr. Barkheimer, how are you, sir?
Pretty good. How are you, Mr. Mayor?
Doing great.
That's hard to compete with.
It is hard to compete with. You're not going to roll over or anything.
No, no. So, as you just stated, we have some items that we're needing to surplus. We some survey technology we'd like to surplus and sell. As the staff memo states, this equipment was acquired back in 2017. At the time, the equipment was cutting edge and really allowed us to begin collecting geolocated data of our municipal infrastructure. So that's water valves, water meters, sewer manholes, etc. Move forward 5 years, the equipment is still very capable, but we found an easier and more cost-effective alternative that can collect the same data, and that equipment is now underutilized. So rather than allowing the equipment to kind of further depreciate and just sit there, staff thought it was prudent to bring it to you guys and try to get as much of that value back out of it as we can. So staff does recommend approval of the item, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
You mentioned if we found ways to do it. Can you just elaborate on what those are?
Yeah, so the 4 items that we're surplusing effectively are all one unit. So we have what I'll say is a base station, and then we have a handheld unit, and then a GPS thing that goes on a rod, and they all kind of talk to each other, and we're able to collect shots, right? What we've done is we have a handheld unit that connect with an iPad, and it does it the same thing, except for instead of them having to communicate, and then when you're getting back to the office, you have to upload. It's all done through the cloud. So when we get back to the office, our data is already there.
Awesome.
So it's just a
Cool.
efficiency deal.
Yeah. Any other questions? How about a motion?
Motion to approve item 4.
Thank you, ma'am. Cammy and Travis. You're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution declaring certain items of personal property surplus and no longer needed for city purposes, describing said items, and authorizing the sale of said items by auction, and in the event items do not sell at auction, disposal at the city of Shawnee's discretion.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 4. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 5 is consideration of a resolution and approval of an agreement between the City of Shawnee and the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, ODOT, for highway illumination along US 270B Kickapoo widening. And Mr. Barkheimer is up again.
Yes, sir. You guys are going to get tired of me tonight. So this really speaks to the next 2 items for both the illumination and the traffic signals. Staff has been working with ODOT to prepare for the Kickapoo widening. It's been a long road, but I think we're headed in the right direction. And these agreements supplement a previous agreement between this commission and ODOT for Kickapoo. I believe that was back in 2016. The previous agreement covered the actual street and storm sewer, so paving, grading, and drainage. This agreement covers the lighting, and in short, this it gives the maintenance responsibility to the city after construction is completed. So, as I said in the memo, this is an administrative item that ODOT is wanting to get cleaned up ahead of construction, but it doesn't really materially change what we already knew. So, with that, staff does recommend approval of the item, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Anybody got any questions? Pretty straightforward. How about a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve item 5.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Travis and Cammy. Okay, you're up, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution approving a project maintenance agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for the installation of highway illumination along US 270B.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 5. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 6 is consideration of resolution and approval of an agreement between the City of Shawnee and Oklahoma Department of Transportation, ODOT, for multiple traffic signals along US 270B Kickapoo widening. One more time.
One more time, yeah. So this is, as I said, this is basically the same agreement, but instead of for illumination, it's for traffic signals. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Alrighty. Any questions? If not, we'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve item 6.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
I think you started out first there. So Daniel and Darren. And Joe's up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution approving a project maintenance agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for the installation of multiple traffic signals along US 270B.
Thank you, sir. And we have a motion and a second for approval of item 6. We'll call that question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 7 is the presentation of American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA projects, and Mr. Foose is up. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This presentation is designed to give an overview of the funding associated with the American Rescue Plan Act, commonly referred to by its acronym ARPA, and the projects being addressed by the city with that funding. The city has secured 2 sources of ARPA funding and is currently applying for a grant for a 3rd source. First is the $8.35+ million, which was provided as a direct allocation from the U.S. Treasury. The funding was provided in 2 tranches, with the first half being received by the city in June of last year and the second half in June of this year. This funding allocation was provided under the condition that it could only be used for designated purposes. In compliance with federal regulations, the city chose the standard allowance option for lost revenue. The standard allowance provides up to $10 million to be claimed as lost revenue due to COVID-19, which in light of the city's full amount of approximately $8.35 million, greatly simplifies the reporting requirements. Furthermore, by utilizing that option, the city has greater flexibility in spending those dollars. The funds could thus be used for any government services traditionally provided by the city. However, in recognizing the persisting need for renewal of core water and wastewater infrastructure, that is where the city is focusing its resources. The next pot of money is the $9.9 million, which the state of Oklahoma designated to the city of Shawnee through state legislation for exclusive use for water and wastewater infrastructure. These funds will be dispersed through a grant from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. It is important to note that the state legislation provides for 4% of the grant allocation to remain with OWRB for administrative costs associated with the grant servicing program. That reduces the city's share by approximately $397,000, which brings the project funding to approximately $9.5 million. In an agenda item later this evening, the city will also consider an application for a competitive grant with OWRB that would provide an additional $1.7 million. This grant includes the same limitation to capital projects for only water and wastewater, which is why the city's application is for a water capital project. It is important to highlight the time restriction placed on ARPA funding. Funds must be obligated, generally through a contract, by December 31st, 2024, and be expended by December 31st, 2026. This timing applies to all 3 sources of ARPA funding discussed on the last slide. In looking at the city's high priority funding needs, investments in water and wastewater infrastructure have been a pivotal discussion point since the enactment of the ARPA legislation. We have approximately 241 miles of water mains and 193 miles of sanitary sewer. Of those lines, 150 miles, or almost 35%, are over 50 years old and exceed their useful life. The extreme weather events in February of last year further highlighted the water and wastewater system deficiencies. In 1 week, there were over 30 water main breaks, and for that year, we saw over 300 water main breaks and sewer system incidents. In recent years, the city has budgeted approximately $1 to $2 million each year for the replacement of water and wastewater lines, which only scratches the most critical infrastructure needs for the system. With this in mind, the city has focused intently on committing the use of ARPA funding for water and wastewater line replacement. Due to particular urgency of one section of the wastewater system, the Commission will recall the Kamek Street Gravity Relief Line Project was initiated earlier this year ahead of all other ARPA projects. This was spurred by significant deficiencies in infrastructure, which had the potential to cause sanitary sewer overflows during heavy rain events that could have resulted in action by the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality. The construction bid for that project was awarded by the Commission in August, and the project has reached substantial completion at a total cost of approximately $715,000. That portion is being paid from the city's direct allocation of ARPA funding from the U.S. Treasury. Now let's look at the projects ahead, which will utilize all available ARPA funding. The initial scope of water and wastewater line replacement projects entails 7,500 feet of sewer lines and 25,000 feet of water lines. This would directly impact 742 service connections and would provide a benefit to over 40,000 residents, businesses, medical patients, and students. These efforts will be divided among 3 engineering firms for design work and will be bid out as multiple projects. This will allow the city to expand or decrease the total amount of work based on the bids received and the funding availability, which is especially important with current inflationary concerns. The first step for the water and sewer line replacement projects begins with engineering design work. In light of the substantial funding levels and number of other ongoing infrastructure projects, city staff determined that the most efficient use of resources is to contract with engineering firms to carry the line replacement projects from design through construction. Similar to other collaborations, the city's engineering department will evaluate the design work and provide regular oversight throughout the process. In August, city staff initiated a request for qualifications for engineering design services. That process yielded submittals from 15 engineering firms. Staff conducted a thorough review of the submittals and selected the 3 most responsive and high-ranking respondents. Those were Cowan Group Engineering, Freeze and Nichols, and Burns and McDonnell Engineering. With approval by the City Commission, the city will engage each of these firms through a non-financial master service agreement. The financial components will then come in the form of a task order, which is required with each firm and each project for which the city wishes to engage their services. Those task orders will also come before the City Commission for consideration for financial authorization as needed, of which the next agenda item will cover that. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Let's see. Guess not. I guess you must have explained it really well. Thank you so much. Item 8 is consideration of agreement between the City of Shawnee and Cowan Group Engineering, LLC, for engineering services. Mr. Barkheimer's back up.
Yes,
As
sir.
you promised.
Yeah, so I appreciate the presentation that Jacob just gave because it makes my job a little easier. But as he said in his presentation, this agreement is the first of a couple master service agreements that we'll bring before you, the only one tonight. And this specific agreement and item is for Cowan Group Engineering, LLC. I would add that we do have a representative from Cowan here tonight. Mr. Michael Taylor's here if you guys have questions specific for him. But in non-legal terms, the general service agreements basically establish the contractual guardrails that the rest of the task orders will be operated under. And this just allows staff to not go back and forth to establish multiple contracts. So with that, staff does recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Guess not. How about a motion?
Move to approve item 8.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Daniel and Cammy. So we have a motion and a second for approval of item 8. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 9 is consideration of a task order in accordance with the agreement between the City of Shawnee and Cowan Group Engineering LLC for water system improvements along Mark Street, Center Avenue, Independence Avenue, and Kiowa Street. You're up again, sir.
Yeah, this is my last item, I promise. So as we've talked about in the previous two items, this establishes the scope and fee for our first non-emergency ARPA project. It's a combination of a couple different problem areas. The bulk of this project was first identified in the 2014 Utility Master Plan, but it also includes an area or two that Public Works frequents when it comes time for main breaks. In total, it's about 7,300 linear feet of removal and replacement with a small section of looping. And again, the next item, Jacob's going to talk a little bit more about another potential grant opportunity that we have with OWRB and ARPA. But it is our plan to move forward with this project regardless of the outcome of that award with our current funding through the LFRF and the state allocation. So this task order is with Cowan Group for professional design services. It's for survey, preliminary, and final design, as well as bidding and construction administration. The task order totals at $255,750, and the current construction estimate is just under $3.2 million. So with that, staff does recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Don't see any. How about a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you very much.
I'll second.
Darren and Travis. Alrighty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 9. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 10, consideration and resolution of the City of Shawnee authorizing the application for American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, grant from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, and Mr. Foose is back up.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tying on with the item that the commission just approved, this is an opportunity to apply for a competitive grant for that project through the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. The grant will provide up to 50% of funding. The city's match would come from the U.S. Treasury allocation, which, as Seth mentioned, if we don't receive this grant, we would continue with the project with the full amount coming from that U.S. Treasury allocation. Shawnee's population places this application in the medium to large size community grant program, which encompasses all communities with a population greater than 7,000. The category has $40 million in total funding available, and an individual grant applicant may receive up to $2 million. So there's about 20 applicants that could get awarded. The grant application is due at the end of this month, and OWRB anticipates having an award announcement within 90 days. So it will go along nicely with the previous task order. With that, staff recommends approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jacob while we've got him?
Is this the potential funding item from your other report?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's the dollar amount?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other
I see it there.
questions? If not, entertain a motion.
Move to approve item 10.
Thank you so much,
I'll second.
Daniel and Cammy. And Mr. City Attorney, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution of the City of Shawnee authorizing the application for American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, grant from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 10. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 11, consideration of final plat for Belmont Park Addition Phase 2 on the approximately 8.79 acres north of West MacArthur Street and east of Acme Road. Case number FPL 05-22, applicant J. Bentley Investments LLC, represented by Grubbs Consulting LLC. And Mr. Harkins, how are you, sir?
Good, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. Ryan Harkins, Community Development Director. This is a final plat request for a 22 lot subdivision near MacArthur and Acme Road. It is, as noted, the second phase of this development. It is rezoned to, has been previously rezoned to R2 and C2. The Planning Commission recommended this on a 4-0 vote. Staff's recommendation is approval as well.
Okey-doke. Any questions? If not, I'm sure we'd entertain a motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve item 11.
I'm sorry?
So I'd like to make a motion to approve item.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. So we have a motion, looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. All righty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 11. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6-0. So item 12 is a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located at 4731 North Union Avenue containing approximately 16.25 acres from the A1 Rural Agricultural District to R3 Multifamily Residential District with a PUD, Planned Unit Development, case number PUD 02-22, applicant David M. Box, representing Donna Palmer. And Mr. Harkins is up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, this item at the applicant's request was withdrawn before the Planning Commission had their public hearing. They are looking at retooling their application at this time and bringing it back at a later date. So because the legal notices had been served, this had to stay on the agenda. So it comes to you as an item that requires no action at this time.
Okay, that's easy enough, isn't it?
Correct.
All righty, we'll move on to item 13. Consideration of a budget amendment for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 for Fund 303, 2018 Capital Improvement Fund to fund construction costs for Woodlands Veterans Park. And Ms. McNabb Fox is up. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm presenting a budget amendment for your consideration totaling $1,170,000 in the 2018 Capital Improvement Fund. This budget amendment adds budget authority for the improvements at Woodland Veterans Park. The contract was awarded to Downey Contracting for $4.7 million in the July 18 Commission meeting, and this budget amendment will bring the budget to the total of that contract. This additional appropriation will be funded by loan proceeds and additional sales tax collections that are exceeding budget estimates in the 2018 Capital Improvement Fund.
Very good. Any questions?
Can you expound just so everyone is clear and understands on the additional loan proceeds that are helping fund it?
Yes, sir. So the total loan that we've got, the 2018 loan and the 2020 loan, totaled about $26 million and some change. We currently budgeted in the current year $19 million. The prior year we've used I think $4 or $5 million. So we do have some additional loan proceeds that we haven't quite used that I'm using as a budget amendment for this item.
And the loan proceeds were when we advanced on our tax projections to lock, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
The interest rate would be lower than the cost and allow us to do things more quickly. Just so everybody understands, we're not taking out.
Right, it's not a new loan,
Debt
it's an
to fund it,
existing
yeah.
loan that we're having some additional revenues come in that we can draw from, yes.
Yeah. Which we got at a very good interest rate.
Much cheaper than inflation.
Definitely. That proved to be a very good decision. Any other questions? If not, how about a motion?
Well, do we want to talk about the wastewater, or are they together?
I'm sorry?
That's on the SMA.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay.
Separate, my fault.
Okay.
It's on our same sheet here.
I'll make a motion to approve item 13.
All righty.
Second.
Ma'am. Annie and Darren. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 13. We will call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 14, acknowledge monthly sales tax report. You didn't get to stay away long.
All right, so for the November sales tax collections, totaled $2,248,785, which is almost 20% over projections for the month, and 15% over projections for year to date. This is also 15% higher than November of last year, which is excellent news.
Wow.
That will bring our year-to-date collections in FY23 7.5% higher than this same time last year. For use tax collections, the total November use tax was $265,079, which is a negative 2% variance from projections. However, collections are 5.5% over projections for the year, and 10% above this same time last year. And I'm happy to answer any questions on that if anybody.
Any questions? That's really good news. Very, very good news. So let's hope that just keeps going that way.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Item 15 is new business.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. All righty, we get the commissioner's comments. You want to start down your end?
I'll say the one thing I have written down so far. I'm thankful for the perseverance through all of the department's grant hunting. More grant money means more of this deferred maintenance can be taken care of much more quickly. And it's nice to see just every month I feel like there's a new grant out there that you guys have found and are already working towards, and it makes a difference when it comes to these millions and millions of dollars that we need to build up our deferred maintenance and get it taken care of. I think I'm going to leave it at that because my heart's kind of heavy on everything else, and I don't think the time frame between public comment and commissioner comments and then being focused on everything that we're discussing and being in the moment would allow me to gather thoughts on the public comments. So I'm going to reach out to everybody individually and give you guys the due diligence of thinking through everything and considering everything that's been said, because I'm pretty big items that I want to take the time to really give you everything that I can on it, and going through agenda items isn't enough time to do that, to think through everything and reconcile what I've learned and what I already knew. So you guys are in my mind, and I will get with you, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Good news on sales tax. Thank you
Awesome
for
news.
that. We keep seeing those, so that's good. Appreciate the staff's time on the agenda this month and getting us all the information that we see. A lot of times, I think everyone thinks we just kind of agree on things, but our packets are pretty in depth. So there's a lot to it that we can ask questions in advance and have answers and things. So thanks to the staff for that. Representative Curbs, thank you for coming and clarifying some rumors and stating facts and offering what your office can do for some of those things. We appreciate that. That could come in handy. Rick, I appreciate listening to you speak when you address us. It makes me think, I can tell you that. It's very eloquent when I have to think, what did he just say? Was I just scolded, or were we congratulated? So it really makes us think on the things that you have to say, and I appreciate that. There's some positive in there, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Flood.
I'm just going to say thank you to our staff and leave it at that.
All right. Amy, you were up.
Great news on the sales tax. And I wanted to remind everyone that as we go into the holiday season, this is the season where I say this at every meeting, please shop local, because we use the local sales tax to fund all of the projects that we work on if we can't get these amazing grants. If you can't shop local, Representative Curbs won't like this, but order online. And we get all that use tax too. So first, shop local. If you can shop at a locally owned store, even better, but shop local, shop local. I was really inspired by attending the Veterans Day celebration, which is always inspiring to celebrate the veterans and be humbled by their service. But the new memorial, if you guys haven't been, is really beautiful. It's right as you enter the Veterans Park, Woodlands Veteran Park area. Is going to be such a crown jewel of the town. It's exciting to see that get started. But it is a memorial that's for the Gold Star families, and it's beautiful. They had their unveiling Veterans Day, so that was cool to be a part of. I really appreciate these citizens that spoke today and the concerns that they bring up. You can tell that we have a town that has some issues we have to work on and take seriously, but we have a really great group of citizens that are concerned, and when there's a problem, they get to the bottom of things and keep looking for answers. And also, we're really lucky that we have Representative Curbs, who's willing to come and to our city council meeting, city commission meeting, and actually speak to some solutions on what's going on. I wanted to specifically thank Representative Curbs and our city staff for all the work they did to secure the ARPA money. I don't think that the general public probably realizes how lucky we are to have secured those funds. And even though, as Representative Curbs mentioned, $9 million is a drop in the bucket, but it's a substantial amount of money for a community of our size. And without our staff and our state representative, we may have not secured that. It'd be very likely that we would not have secured that money, and we'd be in a world of hurt right now. So thank you to everyone who worked so diligently on that. I think before our next meeting, we have the Christmas parade coming up, which will be a great time to shop locally as you enjoy that parade. So that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I wanted to start the Veterans Day and say thank you to all our veterans. That the new memorial is just fantastic, and the ceremony was cold but amazing, and so many amazing folks raised the money to make that happen, and to get to shake some of their hands and say thank you, and especially the Gold Star families and all they've given. That was an amazing morning last Friday. Was it last Friday? A week ago Friday. So enjoyed that a lot, and it's going to be a huge thing for our community. I don't know that it needs to be an administrative report, but Joe, we had some concerns raised, and I'd like some education just personally as a commissioner. What is a municipality to do? What is our ability when, say, a municipality or nursing home, nonprofit, other organization, whatever listed, if someone does bring someone here, what's the recourse, and how can we look at that issue and address it correctly while also treating the person as someone who's also created in the image of God and needs our assistance and care? And so how can a municipality respond? I appreciate Representative Curbs. I think it probably is a combined response of local and state, and we can address it together, and I trust we will. It's great to see the two items we had on Kickapoo today, movement, and it looks like a finish line is beginning to come into view, and that's going to be a great thing for our community. Did want to thank staff and all those that assisted on the ARPA money, total of 18.2, another 1.6 that we're going to go after in additional funding, but staff did an amazing job partnering with Representative Curbs and all of our advocates at Capitol Hill and local people that were advocating for it. that's a big deal for our city. As we've talked about unfunded liabilities that we have. This is a good start, and I think creates some momentum. Sales tax numbers were great. While they were good, I think one of the things I took note of, they didn't follow the seasonal trend. They continued to trend up, where last year, even though they were good, they trended down. And again, thankful for staff and their conservative budgeting, which continues to help us beat estimates, including funding the emergency fund that'll help us when things get tough. So that's enough. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, to our staff, to our citizens. Hope you have a great holiday. Get to love on your family, and hopefully we all have a lot to be thankful for, and we can take time to care for one another. So have a great holiday.
All right, thank you, sir. You guys covered a lot of good things. We had a lot of good news. Sales tax was awesome, so we'll expect that again next month. But let's talk about DOC dumping released inmates in Shawnee. That's something that we've heard a lot of talk about and a lot of chatter on social media, so let's just talk about that. So last Thursday, November 17th, there was a meeting that focused on creating a neighborhood watch in downtown that was held at a local church. I think it was Higher Ground. It's Pastor David Henry's church. He was nice enough to let everybody use that space, and thought that was a good meeting. Establishing neighborhood watches in our neighborhoods is a truly healthy endeavor, which could go a long way to reduce crime. If we all look out for each other, it makes for safer neighborhoods. So I think that's a very good thing. And there was several, more than several downtown folks there, and I thought it was a really nice meeting. There was a security camera company that made a presentation for their products, which can be very useful with folks. There was a representative from Blue Peak that also made a presentation on broadband services that you need to pass that information back and forth. We had our police department public information officer there and our police chief, and they expressed their thoughts and offered suggestions designed to assist with the creation of effective neighborhood watch organizations, because we want those to be successful. And there was a statement read by Teresa Cody, who's here tonight, a downtown business owner, that was reported to have been provided by Representative Del Curbs, as they both stated. I'm going to play what she read, just so everybody can hear it, and there'll be no question. So I'm gonna play that. If I can get that to come on.
But he did send me a statement, and I asked him to send me a statement because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. He says, my office received calls and concerns with DOC dropping off recently released folks to Shawnee with no prior connection to the community. This has since been corrected as of now. Those being brought to our community need to have support system ready to receive them to help keep them on the right path. So if we are receiving people that are not from here, and even if they are, he wants them to be received and help them to be put over with somebody that can help to keep them on the right path. So that was his comment.
All right, that's the end of her statement. Without Representative Curbs in attendance, it was impossible to ask him any questions for clarification. It was impossible to learn any more details on the statement. The statement attributed to a former employee at the correctional facility in Boley could not be confirmed without a name or that person in attendance. So the next day, I contacted Representative Curbs. He explained that DOC was never just dumping people in Shawnee or any other city. However, there were concerns that not enough information was gathered on why a released inmate wanted to go back to a requested community. This was not a situation that was isolated to Shawnee. It was a statewide problem. He and a number of representatives from around the state had discussed it with DOC officials, and about a year ago, new policies were put in place. When an inmate completes their sentence, they, and I will stress they, tell DOC personnel where they want to be delivered at release. If they say Shawnee, that's where they're taken. It's the same situation with any other community. About a year ago, DOC staff started doing more detailed questioning of inmates being released to try and be sure that inmates would be headed back to a community where they had roots and support. That might be family, or it could be they could be receiving services from an organization such as Red Rock. But they wanted to make sure they were going back someplace they had support. The notion that Shawnee was being somehow targeted by DOC for dumping released inmates is totally unfounded. One day following the Neighborhood Watch meeting, there were posts by Mr. Morris stating that DOC was dumping people in Shawnee. This information was presented as unquestionable fact without any verification from the source of the information. In fact, I'm going to read the social media comments. So on Nextdoor, did you know DOC is dumping people in Shawnee? I didn't know for sure until tonight. When an inmate is released without an address, they get Walmart, the Shawnee Library, etc., put as their current address, then dumped here. This has been confirmed by an Oklahoma State representative, who's referring to Representative Curbs, and also a former employee of Boley Correctional Facility, whose name we don't know. Who knows how many have ended up here? It's not folks that are from Shawnee or even the area. They would most likely have an address and or family locally. The mayor was there, which I was, when I found out, so check with him too. Room of folks, actually. So next time you hear on the commission say, nobody being dumped here, then call them out for it. Anyway, have a great night, Shawnee. The more you know. Then on Facebook, big type. Did you know DOC is dumping people in Shawnee? I didn't know for sure until tonight. The more you know. And then we get one here on Nextdoor. Mayor, you owe a lot of people in town an apology for telling all, in capitals, of us that this doesn't happen. Looking forward to that apology come Monday. Enjoy your weekend, which I assured him I would. I hope comments this evening from Representative Curbs will help convince people that the statements made on social media by Mr. Morris had no basis in fact. I would urge people to get their information from trusted and reliable sources. Not investigating information thoroughly and then spreading unverified information publicly demonstrates that, in my opinion, the person spreading the information is clearly not a reliable source and not believable. The notion that anyone serving on the city commission would hide information of this type, if it in fact was true, is totally false and would not happen. If DOC or any other organization was in fact dumping people in Shawnee, we would take immediate action to stop that from happening. We all take this job very seriously and want nothing but the best for Shawnee. We all live here too, and we want to live in the best community possible. What would we have to gain from allowing this kind of abuse to happen here? I've said numerous times that if someone has evidence of another city or organization delivering their unhoused population to Shawnee, that I would talk with the chief executive officer and relay my expectations that that behavior must stop. To do this, I would have to have solid information to back up our claims. I cannot take unverifiable allegations and confront another city or organization. So it is imperative that we have irrefutable evidence that we could be going on or acting on. This evidence could be clear photographs or video with easily readable license tags. The exact time and location would be of great value too. Going forward, why don't we try to work together as neighbors? I do not understand what I perceive to be an insistence that everything done at City Hall is wrong, that everything is a conspiracy hatched in some top secret meeting. Those don't happen. We can get a lot more done if we work as a team. Find something positive and productive to work on. Maybe get involved in developing a neighborhood watch in your own neighborhood. On a brighter note, the Homeless Resource Center is expanding their operations to include Thursday, which I believe starts this week. When the center is open, there is definitely a perceivable drop in the homeless numbers hanging out on Main Street. The HRC staff has placed numerous people into housing this year. We've also connected unhoused people with support services in an effort to find housing options. Another day will be helpful. Our team will help our team be more successful. It is important to note that these efforts are only a start, and we hope to be filling out more supportive services to get people housed and off the streets. I think we mentioned, that's all I'm going to say about the DOC situation. As I mentioned, December 1st, which is what, about less than 2 weeks away, is the Christmas parade already, which is crazy. Hopefully the weather's going to cooperate. I think the parade starts at 6:30 this year. So anyway, I think it'll be a great event. All righty, with that, we are adjourned and we will move on to the Airport Authority. So item 1 is consideration approval of consent agenda. Is there anything anyone wants to pull off the consent agenda? If not, we'll
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Daniel and Darren. All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 1. Call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 2 is new business.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Item 3, we are adjourned. We will move on to the airport, our municipal authority. Item 1 is consider approval of consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Aaron and Daniel. Okay, motion and a second for approval of item 1. We will call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 2, consideration of budget amendment for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 for Fund 501 Shawnee Municipal Authority Fund to fund the wastewater system improvements project and the associated closing costs for the loan with the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, OWRB. Ms. McNabb Fox is up again.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. So this budget amendment totals $84,548,755 to the Shawnee Municipal Authority Fund. This budget amendment adds budget authority for the wastewater system improvements project that was awarded to Downey Contracting for $83 million and some change at the August 15th commission meeting. This amendment also adds budget authority for the associated closing costs to the loan with Oklahoma Water Resources Board for $900,025. This additional appropriation will be funded by the proceeds from the 3 loans with OWRB.
Any questions? Anyone got a motion?
I'll move to approve item 2.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll second.
So Cammie and Darren will say. All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 2. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6-0. Item 3 is new business.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. We are adjourned. It's time to go home. Thank you for coming out.
Call out private citizens.